Good evening. My name is Roz Peters, and I'm with the League of Women Voters. I'm the co-chair of the Hillcrest chapter, and Jean Janels, who is right over here, wave everybody, Jean, is my co-chair for the Hillcrest chapter. And the League of Women Voters welcomes you to the Candidates Forum this evening. We're glad you're here.
Thanks, Jay.
I want to tell you some of the things that are going to be happening, and part of it's on the program, so that'll help. We're going to be starting with the South Euclid candidates, and then the meet and greet, and then followed by the Lyndhurst candidates later on at the end. Okay, and the first thing that we'll be doing is, and the format for tonight is that we have all of the candidates will be making an opening statement, which is 2 minutes long, and it is timed. And where are my timers? There's my timers. That's one of the first things I want to do is I want all the students who are helping us tonight to stand up and wave. They're from the government classes here at Rush. At the doors, we are so happy to have you, and we're very happy to have the support and organization quality and professionalism of the head of the Social Studies Department here at Brush, who is Debbie Cassidy, who's right there. The co-sponsors this evening are listed here, and they are the South Euclid Lyndhurst PTA Consul, which includes also the Brush PTA Consul. And the ladies from there who are volunteering, would you wave at, there, right there. And the Friends of the Library from South Euclid Lyndhurst. And the Heights Hillcrest Lyndhurst branch of the American Association of University Women. And they have been with us, and so have the Friends of the Library and the PTA for a large number of years helping with Candidates Forum. So we're so grateful for all of them. As we said, the two-minute presentation will be timed, and you know the times, right? Okay. And they'll be holding up when they get to 1 minute, and holding up when they get to 30 seconds, and when they get to 15, and when to stop. Because to make it fair, everybody needs to speak the same amount of time. Okay, so we're going to start this evening with Marty Gelfrin and Gail Williams-Byers, who are the candidates for the South Euclid Municipal Court. And we'll be starting, we did a drawing this evening ahead of time, which is mentioned on here, so that we can determine who is going to start first. So, the person who is starting first is Marty.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Marty Gelfand. I'm a candidate for judge for the South Euclid Municipal Court. I'm a veteran of 6 years in the Navy, and I was fortunate to come back whole from submarine service, but I know that a lot of the young people coming back from the military now are not coming back whole because of all the wars that have been going on. And some of them don't have great discharges either, so they're not able to go to the VA for help. Sometimes the first help that they get, the first sign that there's a problem is when they get arrested for something. And I want to see a veterans docket. And not just for South Euclid, but I want South Euclid to have a veterans docket so we can give our soldiers and sailors coming back, our veterans, treatment rather than jail. And I want to do it in collaboration with other courts, other suburbs, even the county, because I think we can't pay for this stuff alone. I would like to help people get jobs. We've got some great reentry programs, but we need to work with other agencies. People who aren't incarcerated also need to get help getting jobs, and we can do that in collaboration with other agencies. Families and neighborhoods need help. Sometimes it has to go through the court, and when it does, we want to give them the extra attention they need because of neighborhood problems and domestic violence. We need to use our time in the court efficiently and effectively. Court will start on time, and we will move the docket, but everybody's going to be treated fairly. Nobody's going to be rushed through because we want to, them to plead to something. everybody's going to get a lawyer of their own, or they're going to have one appointed for them. And we have to think more regionally. A small city like South Euclid with 22,000 people can't afford to have its own court and own services. And we need to find ways, whether we merge a court or we merge services like the Veterans Treatment Docket or a mental health docket with other courts. We have to find a way to think regionally so that we aren't stuck with the costs for our taxpayers. We need to spread those costs, and that's what I intend to do as judge of the South Euclid Court.
And now, Gail Williams-Byers. So if we'll turn your mics off, I think.
Sorry, I have to be closer to it.
That's quite all right. I just wanted to make
Gail Williams-Byers.
Good evening, everyone. First, to our sponsors this evening, I want to take a moment to thank you all for hosting us this evening for this very important forum and discussion on the path forward for our South Euclid Municipal Court. I've had the honor of serving since 2012, and in 2011, when I came to you with a plan to improve our court considerably, and I'm happy and honored to report that all of the things I plan to deliver have indeed been delivered and more. We have the only night court in all of Cuyahoga County which works at no cost to the taxpayers, and we have been a champion of ensuring that there are rights that are provided to individuals who actually come before the court that are bar none and cannot be compared to any other court in the county. We have a housing docket that takes care of focusing on our most valuable asset, which is our housing stock in South Euclid. The court is able to focus on that and to ensure that violations are addressed so that we protect the housing values of those taxpayers in the city. We've moved on to create innovations in technology, and also to ensure that for those who have warrants issued, we've provided a path for safe surrender that does not hopefully involve negative interactions with the police, which provides an amnesty opportunity so that our police can remain safe and individuals can be very responsible about their cases. In the years to come, if I'm honored to continue to serve you, I hope to deliver what's called a rapid response team to buttress the only mental health docket among the suburban courts in Cuyahoga County, which is the one we have here in South Euclid. Our rapid response team would have professionals deployed to help de-escalate situations and connect families and support systems with services on site. We want to improve our court's technology even more by delivering a state-of-the-art case management system that will allow individuals better access to cases. And finally, to deliver a self-help center for litigants who frequently find themselves representing themselves in court. Thank you. I hope to have your support.
In the next part of this is the question and answer period. So we need some questions. Do our students have some of those cards picked up? Have you taken them around? Yeah, okay. The students are coming right now with little file cards. You can write your questions because they will all be in writing, and then our screeners will go through and make sure that we don't have duplicates and that there are no candidates or no questions that are negative and attacking candidates. So hold up your hand. Hold up your hand if you have a question ready, and the students will come and get it. And could you make sure that some more of these get out faster? Heidi Perez. And Ruth Thompson and Ann Fry. We're helping, there she is, back there. I just wanted you to know who is responsible for doing the PTA part of this evening.
Their plea is at that juncture is because they're too poor to buy their way out of jail. And so the important discussion is how we reform the practice of setting bonds for individuals who are indigent. The Cleveland Municipal Court has commissioned the Arnold Foundation to determine and to create an assessment tool that assesses risk and helps judges figure out the two important questions they are required by law to determine, which is, what is the likelihood that the person will return to court while this case is pending, and how do they set a bond that ensures the community will be safe? Frequently that has less to do with how much they have in their bank account than other things that can be put in place. And so that's what I'm championing, and I'm actually in favor of.
Okay, Mr. Guilford.
Yes, bond is important. People who are accused of crimes, we need to know that they're going to show up for court. So we want you know, we want to do background, and we want to make sure they're going to show up for court and they're not going to be a threat to other people while they're out. In most cases, in misdemeanors that you see in a municipal court, people should be out on personal bond. It shouldn't really cost them money to get out of jail. But the risk assessment tool that the judge was talking about is something that's being used. There are other forms of risk assessment that judges have discretion over, and I don't want to make it hard for people to get out of jail, but I do want to make sure that they show up. So, you know, there's also bondsmen who are able to insure through an insurance program that people show up where necessary. But really, for most people in a municipal court, they should be out on personal bond, and that's probably what I'll do on it, certainly on a case-by-case basis.
Remind you that if you have a question for the judges, the potential judges and judge, that you raise your hand and we will pick it up, and then the screeners can look at that. So that's what the students are here for, to help you get your questions up to us. The next question is, how many of the people coming through the courts are veterans?
You can answer first.
Yes.
Well, I couldn't answer for South Euclid. I'm a councilman in South Euclid, and I'm one of 7 votes on the court's budget year to year, so I don't practice in the South Euclid court because there's a potential conflict there. I don't know how many veterans are coming through South Euclid court, but I have a lot of clients. I practice downtown and in the muni courts around the county, and I pick up cases with veterans quite frequently. I couldn't tell you how many. I have a client right now I'm trying to get into the veterans docket of the county municipal court. I mean the county court of common pleas, and they have a very good program. And again, this is like oftentimes for veterans the first place that they're assessed for treatment because they don't have the ability to get treated at the VA with some of their discharges. So it's very important for the courts to be cognizant of veterans' problems. And I certainly, as judge, will be cognizant of that. We want to work on a veterans docket with our court and neighboring courts.
The South Euclid Municipal Court currently has the only certified mental health docket in all of Cuyahoga counties among the suburban municipal courts. As such, we receive or we see individuals that are veterans, they are non-veterans, they have both honorable and dishonorable discharge. And in 2012, when I took office, one of the first things I did is I met with my colleagues in Cleveland Municipal Court, because that municipal court, being the largest in the area, had several specialized dockets, including but not limited to a veterans docket. At that time, we signed what's called an MOU, or a Memorandum of Understanding, that allowed South Euclid to refer any veterans to their specialized veterans docket so that they could be on Judge Charles Patton's docket and receive those specialized veteran services. We've had that in place since 2012. But what we also do on our mental health docket is we have probably out of the 40 or so individuals on our docket, 3 may be veterans. But we still service those veterans specifically because our forensic liaison is a veteran, and we also have access to VA services. Thank you.
You're welcome. And we're going to have you be first in answering this question, and we'll go back and forth from there.
Certainly.
It was just in the beginning that we were going to have someone assign the first slide. Okay. How would you address the disparate treatment in the court system?
I welcome the question because it really forces us to face what has come to the forefront. We see very clearly now that in our justice system, there are those individuals who lost faith in it because we see the reality that some individuals are or tend to be treated or seem to be treated more harshly than others. One of the best ways to ensure that is to ensure that your jurist always remains fair. Fairness is the hallmark of every justice system, at least it should be. Also, understanding that minorities in particular tend to present more often than not as individuals who are more frequently indigent. Understanding the indigency status of your litigants, no matter who they are, is so important because that tends to be, especially for municipal courts, which is the first system most people ever deal with in a court system, needs to be understood, and those individuals need to not be punished for being poor. They need to be responded to, and I think that that's what we do every day at the South Euclid Municipal Court.
Equal protection under the law. Everybody is going to be treated fairly in my court. Everybody's going to be treated equally in my court. I'm not going to make any assumptions about anybody because of how they look or how they dress. The only assumption I'm going to make is that they are that they need to figure out the mess that they're in if they're accused of a crime in South Euclid. They need some time to figure out what crime it is they're accused of and need some help with an attorney to figure out how they're going to get that help. Not everybody who's accused of a crime committed a crime, and not everybody who's accused of a crime didn't commit a crime. They need to consult with an attorney. Nobody is going to be forced to plead no contest in front of me before they've had a chance to seek counsel. It's not going to happen. Equal protection under the law. Everybody's going to be treated fairly, and that's how I'm going to be as a judge.
Okay, the next question will start with what kind of collaboration would you suggest to work with youth as it relates to the court system?
Well, by youth, I don't know if you mean juveniles. We have a juvenile court that we would be sending offenders, potential offenders to if they're underage. If they're young, 18 or in the upper teens, lower 20s, mid 20s, we're gonna work with them. If they have a disability, we're gonna see if they have some help coming to them through agencies that work with disabilities. If they're, if they have mental illness, if they're a veteran, we're going to see how they can get some help from the resources that are out there. We're not going to, we're going to work with people, and but we're going to deliver justice. And everybody who's convicted of a crime in South Euclid will, will be sentenced fairly. And some people are going to go to jail, and some people are going to get treatment, and everybody's going to be treated fairly and equally, but every case is different, and every case in controversy has to be treated in and of itself.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm proud to say that in the time that I've been the judge in South Euclid, I have focused particularly on how we can work with our young people. Not long after taking the bench, I launched a Democracy Day program, wherein the program is designed to invite our young people into the court so that they can see their government at work. And while seeing their government at work, they can also be directly exposed to the professions that are available in a court system. See, many of our young people from, the age of toddlers, even up until teenagers, never really see themselves interacting with the court unless it's in a negative context. And so Democracy Days really works to tear down those barriers, to help young people understand that there are actual professions that actually work well within the court, and that their only place there isn't in handcuffs. It isn't to be ridiculed or even sanctioned, but that they too can see a court system in work and can actually see themselves there in a positive light. And I'm really proud that we've done great work with that. Thank you.
Okay. I want to remind you that if you have asked a question of one of the candidates, the other candidate has an opportunity to respond to it. So this question was for Mr. Guilford. Why do you feel we need to give up, and then this is a little difficult to read, South Euclid judicial branch of government? Is it only financial? I don't think they mean give up completely, but perhaps cut.
Okay, yeah, I voted for a resolution that would enable South Euclid's court to merge with a neighboring court jurisdiction, or alternatively another court jurisdiction to merge with South Euclid. I think that, South Euclid is a small city, and we're the second smallest city in Cuyahoga County, second only to East Cleveland for the number of people within a court jurisdiction. Most of the court jurisdictions in Cuyahoga County are multi-city jurisdictions. And when it comes to funding the court, the city, by statute, has to pay any differences, and does pay differences between what the court brings in. We need to spread that burden more fairly, and I think we can do that through collaborating, regionalizing with other cities. And no, I don't want to break up South Euclid's court. I want to maybe build it, because I think that if we can bring some other cities into South Euclid, we can have a bigger court in South Euclid and spread our abilities to deliver justice to other cities as well.
Would you like to address that?
Only briefly, to say that my understanding is that the fairly exclusive efforts that have been made as it relates to the resolution that the councilman speaks of has been to remove South Euclid's court and to combine it with those jurisdictions already existing in Lyndhurst. I'm not aware that there have been any town hall meetings or any invitations to the community to have a more robust discussion about how they'd like to see their justice system work. I want to remind you all that this municipal court belongs to no one person. It is not my court, it's not even council's court. It is a branch of government belonging to the people of South Euclid. And the people have a right to decide how they choose to be governed. And I think that's the respectful path to take if there's to be any discussion about what happens to a branch of government. And as an aside, I'll also say that when it comes to court funding, courts have budgets like everyone else. In the time I've been in office, our court has never gone over the budget. But I reject any notion that the court is there to make money for any city and to pad the bottom line. That's not justice.
Okay. This is going to be the last question because we need to give the other candidates a chance to speak. This was for you, Mr. Guilford, again. If your plan to regionalize the court was passed, how would that affect you after being elected? Wouldn't you be out of a job?
Well, first, I want to correct something that the Honorable Judge said. She said something about us merging with Lyndhurst, and there's nothing in the resolution. She read the resolution. There's nothing about merging with Lyndhurst.
You're going to answer the question.
That's part of the question. That's part of the answer. Is no. The court doesn't belong to her. The court doesn't belong to me if I'm elected. The court is delivering justice to a community or multiple communities. And if it serves just South Euclid or it serves multiple cities, the judges are the judges. And yeah, if we were to merge, say, with Cleveland Heights and Euclid, and it's determined that there should only be 2 judges in this 3-city court, if one of the judges have to go, I'm okay with going. I mean, I'd like to. I'm running for judge because I want to be a judge. I'd like to keep my job, but if regionalizing the court means that a judge has to go and I'm the judge that has to go, that's fine, because it's not about me, it's about justice for the whole community, and that's what I stand for.
Would you like to make any comments about the regionalization?
I just want to briefly respond and say I just believe in engaging in intellectual honesty with everyone. And so insofar as, yes, the resolution is silent as to any particular community to merge South Euclid with, and that is correct, what we know for a fact and what we've seen by way of actions are only conversations with one community. And so there may not be the language in the resolution, but you don't need a crystal ball to know what has actually been taking place. And I think that it's only fair to have that very honest discussion with voters and with the residents of South Euclid so that they are clear to understand the direction that it's going in. I quite frankly believe that Hamilton County and Franklin County present wonderful systems as innovative systems of how to deliver justice to entire counties. Both of them have county-wide municipal courts wherein those judges are able to service the entire system and no one gets left out. And that's what I would favor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to start our presentation from the drawing, and the person who will first will be Mr. Atchison.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kenneth Atchison, and I'm running for City Council Ward 1 for South Euclid. I'm a 22-year resident of South Euclid, and I'm a proud resident of the city. I moved here because I was looking for a vibrant community to raise my kids and to just raise a family and thrive. I'm an employee of Walls University. I'm a professor by trade. I'm not a politician, but it's my first venture into politics. The reason why I'm running is because I want to give back to the community. My kids went to Brush, and I graduated from Brush, and I volunteered in many of their activities and organizations. I've also done a lot at my school. I basically, as a professor, not only teach students, but also try to help develop the person. I won an award for human development, and that's a very proud honor for me at the school, because I've basically helped students not only achieve academically, but also be a better person and that sort of deal there. So for the city, I want to try to develop the people here. And with limited budgets and things like that I see coming down the pipe, what I want to do is try to employ the community. So what I'm for making government as efficient as possible and providing great service to the residents. I'm for empowering all the residents to help make this city great. We have some great resources here, the school here, as well as Notre Dame College, that I think we can do. But also, I'm also for economic development and where it makes sense, and to help our community to be an attractive place to live, work, and shop. Oh, thanks, sorry. So, sorry, and thank you for listening.
Good evening. I am Councilwoman Ruth Gregg. I have served as Councilwoman for South Euclid Ward 1 for the past 12 years. I was elected first to this office in 2006. As I thought about tonight, there's two things I think that voters want to know. What have I done and what I plan to do? Some of the things that I have done over those 12 years would be I sponsored legislation to provide seasonal and temporary employment targeting South Euclid residents. I established the Youth Commission for South Euclid. I established gained support for county to make sure that county dollars for out-of-school time services were advanced and provided for South Euclid residents. As a result of that, South Euclid received its first $30,000 last year and is earmarked to receive $120,000 this year. I've done Block Watch, I've done Good Neighbor Guide, three things I'm working on right now, and that is strategic planning to improve the value of our parks and recreation. I'm partnering with the courts to provide the rapid response team legislation to make sure that people that are in mental health crisis have access to immediate services at the point that the police are in their home. And the first and foremost job as a council person is to also respond to the fiscal and financial responsibilities of the city, and I will continue to do that.
Now, we're looking for
Question.
Now, all of a sudden I lost half my voice is gone. Anyway, if you have more questions, we need those for the city council people, and you might want to think in terms of there's still going to be 2 more wards that we're going to cover, so we can ask some of the special questions that would go for any ward to the city council people. Okay. Please raise your hand if you have some questions. And we need students to bring me the questions from right there.
You should have cards on these tables.
Jean, do you have some questions? No, okay. All right, well, while we're waiting, I would like to ask what you both feel about what qualities a council person in South Euclid or any other community need to have. Well, you can be first because he was first with the presentation.
Well, anything that you want to do, and I think for council, for me, improving the quality of life for residents is my passion. That's what I do. That's my life mission. So whether I'm doing it as a council person or in my full-time job or as a volunteer, that is what I think a criteria. what do you think your value is? What are you going to do to make life better for the people that we serve? The rubber meets the road in terms of being a legislator. How you impact the day-to-day lives of people starts as a legislator. When you walk out your door, you expect to have good roads. You expect quality housing, quality education. All of those things have a direct relationship with the relationship that you have as a council person. And so that is what I think the quality of a council person would be, to first and foremost the relationship that you have and the mission for the people that you serve.
That was an excellent question, by the way. My thing about being a council person is being responsive to the needs of the residents. Okay. So my thinking is, just like at my work, where I respond to students' requests and things like that, administrative requests in a timely manner, that's what I want to do. I've been walking and campaigning for the past couple of months, and I've been listening to residents' comments, and I just want to respond to those comments. I want to be their voice in City Hall. I want to be their voice as far as anything or direction that this board wants to go in. Thank you.
Next question. What resources, that's technology, and it's not their fault, it's just sometimes that happens. What resources and relationships can you leverage to serve the residents of South Euclid? And we'll start with you and go back and forth as we start.
Well, being a new person and outside of the city politics, I'm not aware of all of the factors and things that can be brought at hand to make this city or make changes. I do know that the city does have a limited budget. I do know that we also have some gems in the community that we need to deploy. So for instance, Notre Dame College has lots of young students there that we can attract and bring into the city and help hopefully live. Because usually college students, wherever they go to college, they live in that city. We also have a great number of high school students here at Rush, and we will hope for them to actually, after going to college, come back. So those are the things I'm looking for. Try to employ the young students and get the young people to come here and live, be attracted to the neighborhood.
Well, I'm going to answer that question in reference to one of the programs that I'm working on right now, and that is the Advisory Committee for Strategic Planning. And with that, I have put together, and this is typical of me, a representation of every community in South Euclid. We have residents on that committee. We're also looking at, and we're bringing in organizations, the school district, organizations that provide services, and we're actually assessing the current condition of our parks and facilities as it relates to providing what we need to improve the quality of life for all of our residents. Because we recognize that our outdoor facilities and our indoor facilities provide a source of resources. And because of that, I have a unique set of skills and talents as it relates to bringing in revenue and the skills to understanding the value of parks and recreation.
This question actually has to do with the loss of revenue that is from the state cutting the funds of our local governments. So how would you cover the services losses that are from the state local governments?
Well, let's say this. The issues of loss of revenue is not unique to South Euclid, and it just didn't start. We've been losing revenue for a long time, and right now, if we don't find a way to replace that revenue, or to reduce our spending, South Euclid is going to have some additional challenges. So my question, my concern has been and always will be, is that we need to make sure that we live within our budget. And that if we are losing money, then we are going to have to either regionalize or prioritize how we're spending those dollars. And everything that we could do in 2000, we can't do in 2018. So we're going to have to re-look at our budget and see what's important and prioritize. Same thing we do in our homes.
I would like to say that obviously budgets are very important, but one of the other things that we can do as a community is to empower the people. I've, again, walked through the county, the ward rather, and I've listened to people how they want like a community center, how they wish that this service was here, that service was here. But then I also heard from other places where we provide this at a church, for instance, or we provide this activity at the school, and no one comes. So I would want to help employ the people and deploy the people to make this, get everybody get together and know about these services and things that are already there. I'm for regionalization. I am for living with our means and cutting the budget and reducing services whenever possible to make the government as efficient as possible without, and keeping the quality and lifestyle of the city.
Okay, the next question is, what are your plans as an individual to enhance the quality of life for all residents, families, youth, and seniors?
To improve the quality of life, it starts with the people again. I want to help with One South Euclid and the community service director to employ the already existing projects and facilities and organizations and get them together so that they can stay connected with the people who want those services and things to make life better for all residents of South Euclid. There's some things that the government can do, but there's a lot more things that the people can do. And one of the things I want to do is, one, make government efficient, but also let the government get out of the way and connect the government and connect the people who provide services with the people who want the services.
As I indicated earlier, I have 3 primary goals, and I think all 3 of them are related to improving the quality of life. But one, I've already started on the strategic planning. I'm very proud of the work that the group is doing because we're bringing to the table the voice of the community in making the decision as to how their public parks and recreation should look and how we're going to address the needs, and also bringing in other organizations. The other critical one, and the judge talked about this, is we have residents that have mental health crisis. And I think it's important to allow and to bring a rapid response team to South Euclid. When people are experiencing a crisis and the police need some assistance, they can pull from the resources of having a team, especially there, to help them. So those are 2 of the 3 things that I'm working on right now.
Okay. What resources and relationships can you leverage to serve the residents from South?
As I said before, there's many organizations already in South Euclid existing even now. My son was part of Gator football. They were also part of the Hillcrest Basketball Association, for lack of a better term, which was based in Richmond Heights. There's the baseball league. There's also soccer league that my son was part of. My daughter was part of the South Euclid Lyndhurst Sea Monkeys. These are all organizations that already help kids, but there's some people who are not aware of those organizations, things like that. There's also all kinds of youth programs in churches. So those are the things that I want to make the people aware of, and they can use those services. We don't need new government programs and things like that to help people make life better. The government can just point the way and then get out of the way so that the residents, that the people who provide those services and the residents can be connected.
Well, again, you know, my job as a council person and just a humanitarian is to make life better. So I look at things in terms of what our youth need, what our families need, what our seniors need. And as a council person, it's my responsibility to collaborate, to negotiate, to bring the resources to the table, and to be a voice for my community. And so that's what I do. I'm good at it, and I will continue to do it.
Okay, one more question, and then we're going to move on to the next ward, which is Ward 3. Okay, did you hear that? Ward 3 is going to be the next one that we're going to move on to. Okay, what do you feel needs to be improved? What do you feel needs to be improved, and what services do we specifically need?
My colleagues on council know I've been speaking about the condition of our outdoor facilities for a while. The amount of taxes that South Euclid residents pay, we should have better facilities for our youth. We should have better facilities for our seniors. And so that is my mission and my commitment, and I want to see it through. I want to make sure that at the end of this road with the residents, we put together a plan and we bring together to the table the people that are going to help us realize a better value for the parks and recreation services that we have for the amount of taxes that we are paying.
Another organization I learned about during this campaign season is the Garden Club. The Garden Club does some wonderful projects. They have some community gardens all around. I talked to several of those people who are gardening, and they cited my passion for gardening, actually, even though my wife is like, no, you're not doing that. I'm looking at that. But the idea is they also need help. And these are the residents that and the groups I want to help, because they don't need a whole lot of money or anything like that. But what they're looking for the government to do is to get out of their way, maybe give a little bit here and there, and that makes their life better. Gardens around South Euclid will improve the life of all the residents. So that's just one example. Thank you.
Thank you. And now the candidates from Ward, I'm sorry, we have one of the candidates from this ward who did not come. They all confirmed, everyone has confirmed to come, but he is not here. It's Curtis Orr, so unless he comes while you're up here doing, we will just move on. Okay. Now, would you please pronounce your name for me?
My name is Sarah Continenza. Lots of vowels and consonants broken up.
Continenza. It's a beautiful name.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll start with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to be here today. Thank you so much for this opportunity to hear me out. My name is Sarah Continenza, running for Ward 3 Council here in South Euclid. And I am so excited for this opportunity. So since I moved here 6 years ago, I have been working very hard before I ever even thought of running for council, just to try to bring people together through various methods. Nextdoor.com is a platform that through the Bexley community I built from nothing to we have over 600 people now. It's been a great platform to get to know the community very well and understand the needs and goals of people that live here. I also serve on the board for One South Euclid, and that has given me the opportunity to understand some of the wonderful assets our community has and help build on those assets. I have also thrown 4 block parties in our Bexley Park, which is a wonderful underutilized asset that we want to build upon as well. And I've done a lot just bringing people together in different ways, because I think it's very important to be proactive with your safety. Safety forces are great, but if you don't know your neighbors, you're not going to have people looking out for you the way they should. I have been doing this for a long time, the community engagement thing. I was in Peace Corps in West Africa for 2 years when I was in my 20s. I also lived in Japan for a couple of years, worked on a lot of charity initiatives out there. I have my master's in public administration from Cleveland State University. And I also have done a lot of work just at the grassroots level to make sure that people are engaged in the process of finding the services and programs they need, so they have that sense of ownership, so it's not just something for them, but by them. I think that's very important. And another big piece I would like to see in our community, something that Councilwoman Gregg talked about, is that youth engagement. I think it's essential because we do see issues around here, and I guarantee that they would be improved when there are enhancements and things that they have available to them to do in their community. So I open it up to questions right now. Thank you.
All right. First question we're going to ask is, what do you plan to do to make the South Euclid website better so the community residents can find resources provided even at churches and schools?
Okay, wonderful. So I think, first of all, we have some wonderful young people at both Brush High School and Notre Dame. They would probably be really amazing at that. And I think that we should get the insight from these youth and maybe even have them help drive the redevelopment of our website. Our website should have a whole list with links to community partners that they can click easily and find out what's going on with them. I think that we can also link people up to platforms like Nextdoor that I talked about, so that if they didn't know about it, that could be something that they take advantage of. And I think that whatever we do should be very interactive. I think there should be platforms for engagement among different community members and the community service providers, so that they can engage in very meaningful ways, so that they can use this space not only for information, but interaction, because that's key to a good community.
Thank you. What would do South Euclid Community Center, or what would you do to the South Euclid Community Center to serve youth in South Euclid? Read examples.
Okay, well, this isn't concrete, but gardens, I think, would be a great interactive way to bring all different age levels together, to have an intergenerational approach. I think that there definitely needs to be basketball courts. It's something I hear all the time from our young people when I talk to them in the community. And other activities that, honestly, I don't want to say, I know what we should do. If we were going to do something with that community center, I want to ask the community. If we're doing it for the youth, I want them to be involved in that process. So if we are going to do something, they should be involved in the planning of it, the design of it, and the engagement piece, so that it's theirs, they have that sense of ownership, and therefore they will be more likely to utilize it and also take care of it. So I will say that I will do the engagement to find that out, to make sure that it is theirs.
What do you think, what do you think should regionalization be used as a means of balancing the budget?
Well, regionalization has been an approach for reducing deficits in communities. I think it's a very viable option. However, it needs to happen like anything else, with direct input from the community at every step of the way, so that things don't occur in a way that makes us feel that it didn't include our voice. I do think there's a lot of great opportunities. I just want to make sure that those opportunities are, all options are explored, so that it really does reflect what our community wants, values, and would like to see moving forward. Because without that piece, it doesn't matter what you're doing, it's not going to truly benefit the community that you aim to serve. But I do think it is a viable option if explored properly.
Right. Would you support reduction of the council, the city council, from 7 to 5 people, since there are only 22,000 residents?
Anything we can do to lower our expenditures, I think, would be a positive thing. I think that that extra, however, 20 grand a year that would otherwise be spent on that paycheck and the other resources that go into it could be allocated to recreation programs, toward our website and other things that could be directly impactful. I definitely see that that could be a good option.
Right. This is going to be the last question. Our community has changed demographically. What would you do to implement inclusion? while at the same time working to preserve history that has built a strong community?
Well, what I have been doing, I think would be a great step, at least to start and continue to bring people together, to foster those relationships at the grassroots level. I find us standing and staring at our phones often. We often don't leave our homes anymore. We don't know our neighbors. And I know that this is a dramatic difference from, historically speaking, what our community has stood for in the past. And I would like to continue to do things like promote block clubs, block parties, bringing people out, building nextdoor.com, building all these different platforms to bring people together, because the minute you know someone's name and have had a conversation with them, you might be less likely to have preconceived notions about that person, and it's often ignorance that formulates these negative relationships that we see perpetuating cultural divides.
This is a quick question, and you can say a quick answer. Do
Yes.
you support independent court for South Euclid?
Again, I think that this is something that our community should respond to. I think that I am not the one to say yes or no. My job is to reflect the values of the community, and that, as Councilwoman, is what I would do, and then give an answer once I get that reflection.
Thank you. I think we'll start with the question that we just asked in the last. We'll start, yeah, after your presentation, we'll start with that. I just wanted to. Okay. And the person who was picked for first is Lisa Longino.
First thing I want to say that South Euclid arose from a spirit of self-determination and independence. My name is Lisa Longino. I've been a resident for over 17 years, and I'm fortunate to call South Euclid my home. Now, living in the ward as a parent, an educator, and a volunteer, I understand how essential it is to keep Ward 4 safe, develop constructive outlets for our youth, and provide services for our youth, seniors, and families. I will work diligently to improve programming and services while striving to make all residents relevant for future generations. I have a proven ability to work efficiently and collaboratively with staff and colleagues. As a United States Department of Education grant reviewer, as in CMSD, Cleveland Metropolitan School District's grant managers, overseeing a $2.3 million budget for the Health in Motion grant. And just recently, I am over the Just Keep Living Foundation by Mcconaughey, which gave $60,000 to our school district. I've demonstrated the ability to formulate an idea that brings the idea and the viability to life. My ability is to determine a common ground, develop solutions, analyze information objectively, and then think independently with the help of my residents. And I think that would be an asset to City Council. As I look to the future, I'm committed to advocating for our aging population who have been neglected in our district by supporting programs that help our seniors age comfortably in their homes. I also stand behind revitalizing the parks so it may be better utilized and creating an environment where our youth can flourish. Now, together we face many problems in our district, and we need someone who understands and respects other cultures, traditions, and values, while also bringing a table a fresh perspective. Now, with your support, I can continue striving to make Ward 4 a special place, even for South Euclid. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jane Goodman. I am currently Ward 4 Councilwoman and President of South Euclid City Council. And everything that Lisa and all the other council people have said are things that I have worked on and done for the past 12 years and will continue to do. What strikes me is everybody wants to be a social worker and everybody wants to make life better, and we all have different ways of doing it, and we all have different skills. And one thing that our council, it looks like now, is a lot of there's different people with different skill sets that can contribute. So what I contribute in addition to being a fixer, meaning someone calls me up, I take care of things, and that's the community service. That's the constituent service portion of our job. But we are also, as council, responsible for the budget of the city. And that, and knowing how government works is important. So there has to be someone on council who knows how government works and is committed to making government work better, not just for people as taxpayers, but for people as people. So I came back to Cleveland after working around the country. 15 seconds, really? Did I get a minute? At League of Women Voters, and I was the public information officer for League of Women Voters, telling other people to get involved in government. And then I did it. And Ward 4 is where the growth has happened. And I think it's largely because of me.
Okay, we're moving on to the first question, and we'll start with you, Lisa. And how will you support renewable energy in South Euclid? I must tell you, your questions are really impressive.
When we talk about renewable energy, there are several grants that are available through the federal government. What I would be able to do, having been a grant reviewer and also able to apply for grants and be awarded them, I would be able to go through the federal registry and get those funds for us to do renewable energy. We could have a green school. We could have our students at Brush, at Memorial, at Greenview do solar panels and then get funding for it because there is federal dollars for it. We can also go and then apply for different politicians in other states and see how they do their renewable energy for sustainable living. So that's how I would do with renewable energy.
So you know that this is my bailiwick. So I have been in the environmental profession for decades now, and have been working on small wind in Cleveland, to bring small wind to South Euclid. We already are able to put solar panels wherever we like them. The Oakwood Green, so I have been able to merge my experience and skills and knowledge in the environmental field with government, and all I do is write grants all day, so I know where that money is, and I have brought it into South Euclid, especially so making lemonade of lemons is what we did with the Oakwood Green development. And now, in my ward, we have a 22-acre nature preserve because I made it happen.
Okay, the next question, we'll start with you. And do you support the independent court idea for South Euclid?
No. I am a regionalist. Yesterday, we broke ground, we cut the ribbon on our combined dispatch, our regional dispatch center, so that now we share and we benefit from sharing. We get more by sharing with Cleveland Heights, University Heights, Shaker Heights, and Richmond Heights in a combined safety, fire, and police and fire dispatch center. We don't lose by doing that. We gained by doing that. And I look at what we spend on the court and what other communities spend on their courts and see how they benefit from regionalism by combining, and their constituents do not lose, no justice is lost, and it stabilizes their community.
As your city councilwoman, I would listen to the feedback of the residents. Before any policy or for any decision that's made, we need to first have feedback from our residents. That's the most important thing. I am to be your voice. If that is something that you would like, then we would decide it and we would go forward. I would use your what you want, not what I want, not what I want to believe. I'm going to do what my residents of my ward want me to do. And if that is something that they would like to do, if that's something they do not want to do, then we won't do it. I'll fight on your behalf for everything. And I will always get your feedback, and I'll always educate you on the process. Because a lot of times, what we don't know, we haven't been educated on why these things or why not. So let's educate our residents and then let them make the decision. And then once you make the decision, I'm your voice.
Okay, and you will be the next, you'll be first this time. Okay, the question is, and I need to put the statement in, that recently an anti-discrimination statute is wanting to be passed here in South Euclid. What can you tell us about that, and what is going on? This is from the questions from the audience. What is going on in South Euclid that requires a law in reference to discrimination?
Okay, based off the law was based off of transgender. There are several people that put that information out. We have to first, due to the different demographics in our community changing, we have to respect everyone's diversity. We have to respect everyone's choice. We are to teach tolerance. We're to teach respect. And so with that being said, I know a lot about discrimination law. Public Law 94-142, and clearly states that we're not to discriminate, we're supposed to do inclusion. It also states with the Egger law that there are funds that will not be given if you do a ban, if you discriminate against someone. So I'm very familiar with the laws.
So those who actually come to council meetings or committee meetings will know, I sponsored this legislation that we're moving ahead with. I have been endorsed by the Stonewall Democrats of Cuyahoga County. I am pushing this anti-discrimination legislation. And right now, what's happening with it, because that was part of the question, is that we are working to combine our Fair Housing Code, which has certain language that we like, with this anti-discrimination code, so that we have one complete civil rights code in South Euclid that covers all folks and all instances.
Okay. Which services do you think most lend themselves to regionalization? And Ms. Goodman, if you could start with that, and then Ms. Longino.
Well, as I said, we are already partners in Norma. That's we get our insurance as a part of a regional group. NOPAC, we brought in NOPAC. We are an aggregate community to provide good prices on electric and gas for our constituents. We just started the Regional Dispatch Center, and I have supported ways to grow our port through regionalism. It's not an either or. It's a, we could have both. We could keep our wonderful judge, and we can add to our ability to deliver services. So right now, those are the things that are on the table. Oh, building. We are working on a regional building and housing department. We're working on that.
If someone doesn't stop when you put the stop sign up, stand up. We really want it to be fair. Okay.
Okay, when we talk about regionalism, we talk about capacity building and strengthen the skills of our residents and also our city services. We also do need to provide capacity building by providing information and resources to our residents. In order for them to understand regionalism, they need to first understand and be educated on what it means, what it entails. So therefore, if I'm elected as city councilwoman, I will make sure that all of our residents, including our youth, are educated on the process of regionalism.
Okay. Last question. What can you do to contribute to economic development in South Euclid? You're first.
Effective communication. That would be the most important thing. We have to get out there and we have to let others know that we need assistance. We have to apply for federal aid. We have to know how to enhance our youth, to have them come out and let them speak. Let them go in their funds for you all. Just like I did in Cleveland Metropolitan School District. I used the youth. It was the youth who got the Matthew Mcconaughey $60,000. For them to express their voices, for them to know, because you all are our future leaders, you're our future generation. So therefore, leveraging will be through grants, leveraging through going through our city congresswoman, leveraging from our faith-based institution, leveraging from education. That's how I'll do it.
So a large portion, if not most, of the economic development that's happened has happened in Ward 4, because I know that that's important, and I have helped to push that forward and make that happen. It hasn't always worked out the way we initially hoped, but we have a new Cedar Center, we have new businesses on Cedar Road, we have new businesses on Warrensville Heights, and those are creating jobs. And they're jobs for our community, so that more people in our community can be part of the financial growth of our city. And that is most important to me, that we benefit from economic development in that way. I'll take you back the 5 minutes I took before.
Thank you very much. Our candidates are, and this is for judge for Lyndhurst, Mary Kay Loza and Dominic Coletta. Okay, and with the drawing that we did, which I explained earlier in the evening, we did a drawing tonight, and who was going to be first with their presentation. So Dominic, you are first with your presentation.
First off, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight. My name is Dominic Coletta, and I am running for judge of the Lyndhurst Municipal Court. I've been practicing law for the last 13 years, focusing my practice on criminal defense work and civil litigation in municipal, state, and federal courts throughout Ohio. I think my experience lends itself well to being judge of the Lyndhurst Municipal Court. The types of cases that are in front of the court on a daily basis are the types of cases that I've handled over the last 13 years. I can appreciate the impact that a misdemeanor case has on someone's life, and I also understand how that impacts themselves down the road in some state cases and federal cases. I've been a lifelong resident of the Lyndhurst jurisdiction, and I'm raising 3 kids in the area, so I'm very committed to our community. I'm running because I think that there are improvements to the courts that cannot wait another 6 years. When you look at our court's technology, it is way behind. It is the only court of the 13 municipal courts in the county that does not accept online payments. There is no case information put online. There's no sentencing information put online. And in today's day and age, when people are worried if women are being treated the same as men, if minorities are being treated the same as Caucasians, I think the court needs transparency. So I would immediately make these improvements to the court. I have other ideas that I look forward to sharing with you in the question and answer period. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now.
I'm Judge Mary Kay Boza. I apologize for my voice. I've been sick this week, and I promise not to cough on you. This is a little awkward because it's kind of high. Is there some way to get this come down a little? Is there a way to get that lower? All right, I'll do the best I can. I've been your judge for 18 years. I started practicing law 30 years ago. I practiced law all over the state of Ohio. One of my public offices at the time was an assistant attorney general for the state of Ohio. So I've been in public service for a long time, including my work as a lawyer. But as judge of the Lyndhurst Municipal Court, there's a few things I'm really, really proud of. When I took office in 2000, that court traditionally operated at a deficit. The expenses that the court had to pay year after year after year far exceeded the monies that were taken in by the court. And I want you to understand that the monies that the court collects, they collect it from people that steal, people that have driving under the influence cases, people that have domestic violence cases, people that have traffic infractions, accidents, road rage, all kinds of criminal and traffic offenses are the people that pay the court costs that make the court run. One of the very first things that I did to turn that deficit around, a $90,000 deficit, was the 1999 deficit. I turned it around, and for 17 years, that court has operated independently from any tax dollars for every expenditure that we have ever had. And in a matter of fact, Lyndhurst records can show you that over 17 years, we've realized a surplus of monies taken in from court costs that we did not spend to the tune of $176,000 that was turned over to the city of Lyndhurst, and your taxpayers benefited by that. I have other things to say, and hopefully the questions will incorporate those things.
All right, thank you. We're going to hold our applause until they're done with the question.
And we might
some
want
of
to
you
see
came
those figures.
early.
I have them with me, 17 years of figures, showing 176,000.
Okay, we can't go past the time.
All right, thank you.
All right, for people who came in later, we have index cards for you to put questions on, and we're clapping at the end after all the question answering is done for each race. Okay. Now, I must tell you that the questions that are asked to one individual can be answered by the other individual. And so we will make sure that each one has a chance to answer that particular question. It may be a little bit different, okay, let's start with, I want to start with the question we had earlier for the judges from South Euclid. And what kind of collaboration would you suggest to work with the youth as in relationship to the court system? And we will start with Judge Boza, because you need the first for the presentation. And then we'll go back and forth starting.
Since the very beginning of my judgeship in 2000, I have offered my services and opportunities to the local schools on all levels, starting with the younger children with DARE graduations, career days at the middle schools, field trips to court from third graders from St. Pascal's. I've also participated in senior search projects. One of my very first projects was a high school senior from Brush High School, and on my website you can see his artwork displayed, because while he spent 3 weeks at the court, he actually artistically, after I realized he was drawing Superman, saw his talent, and he drew courtroom sketches of each and every prosecutor over the 3-week period of time that he was there. I'm also involved in mentoring programs and intern and externship programs with the local colleges, and I'm also appointed by the Supreme Court's Commission on Professionalism as a mentor for new lawyers.
Well, I think the court's involvement with the youth is very important, because I think when you look at the problems we're having with our drug epidemic, I think we have to get into the schools, and we have to educate them and teach prevention. One of the things I would like to do is I would like to hold court in the classroom. And so go to the courts and hold court in the auditorium, so these kids see that there are real life consequences for their actions. I think studies have shown that DARE is not as effective as people would like to see. Kids are tuning out officers in uniforms. They're tuning out judges in robes. You have to be innovative. You have to, and so I think if you go to the classrooms and you hold court and you let these kids see the real life consequences of real life actions, I think they're much better off to learn. Thank you.
I get to respond?
Yes.
We also have field trips to court, and several of the schools have brought classroom to the court. So it's not a matter, it's a real security issue to actually take court into the schools. You've got your files, you've got defendants, there's security issues. You know, we have a pretty secure court that we make sure with metal detectors that people don't bring in harmful things to court. So I don't know about bringing court to the schools, but we certainly bring field trips of the students to the court. And if you also look at my website, you will see many opportunities that the schools have come to the court over the years.
No, you just answered. You were answering a different.
She got answered.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just to that point, I mean, the Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas is bringing court into the classroom throughout the county for 5-6 years now. So, and those are felony cases where, you know, security issues are definitely heightened. So to suggest that that couldn't be done at the municipal level, I don't think is accurate.
Next question. How many of the people coming through the courts are veterans? And we have to go back and forth, and only one person can start, so.
You can
Well,
start.
I mean, she would know
No,
better.
go ahead.
She would know better as to how many veterans.
Of course I would know better. I'm the judge of the court. Veterans. I mean, some people tell us they're veterans. Some people wear something that's an insignia of them being a veteran, but we don't classify people as veterans. If they wish to tell us that, we learn about it, okay? We don't have a particular veterans court, but my probation officer is very sensitive, and we work closely with the VA when we have mental issues or substance abuse issues with our veterans. There is no counting of how many veterans come to our court. We don't classify people that way. It's just a matter if they want to let us know that personal part of themselves.
Well, since I don't sit in the court every day, I could not tell you how many veterans appear in front of the court, but other courts do keep track because other courts do have specialized dockets and have specific veterans dockets. And one of the things I'll talk about is, of all the municipal courts, our court doesn't have any specialized dockets, but I would, you know, if I were on the bench, I would take note of how many veterans are appear before me and to see if it is appropriate to start a veterans court to properly address those issues that face our veterans on a daily basis. So other courts, the Ohio Supreme Court has to certify these specialized dockets. So it's clear that the Ohio Supreme Court has seen a need for this, and other municipal courts have seen a need for this. So it's something that I would assess and absolutely implement if I felt that the need, if it was needed.
How would you address the disparity treatment in the court system?
Well, this is a big issue, and one of the biggest issues with the disparate treatment is how people who are classified as indigent or poor are treated in the system. And that's the biggest issue is bail reform, bond reform. And currently, our court has a bond schedule where people who are charged with a 4th-degree misdemeanor of disorderly conduct has to put up $350 to get out of jail. You know, if I am elected, one of the first things I do, I would amend that bond schedule to make sure that people charged with minor nonviolent offenses are released without bond. because it affects our community. People who there are studies that show that people who are in jail for 2 or 3 days can lose their job. It affects their family. And so this is something that's been affecting our court now for 18 years. There's been this bond schedule. So on day one, I would amend this bond schedule to make sure that we are not jailing people at taxpayer expense unnecessarily.
We have a bond schedule because the law says we must have a bond schedule. So it's not something that the Lyndhurst Municipal Court invented all by itself. All courts have a bond schedule. My bond schedule is reasonable, and it's reasonable in compared to other courts similarly situated with us. To compare us to a court that doesn't have the same economic diversity would not be a fair thing. So the bond schedule is on paper so that when someone is arrested for something simple and nonviolent, the police can give them the bond immediately and don't have to phone the court or call the court or send papers to the court for review. That's the purpose of the bond schedule, so that the people can get out of jail quicker. And many times the court is informed of some particular need, whether it's a medical furlough need and they're let out on a personal bond, or if they can't make bond by 2 days, we send them court-appointed counsel, and either they're let out on a personal bond or the bond is reduced to make it affordable.
What is your reaction to the new proposed bond and bail program that is being talked about all the time? And we talked about it this evening already with the South Euclid judges. Well, yes, go ahead.
The bond issue right now, the bail and the bond issue, it talks all about protecting assets, and it talks all about analyzing a person's risk of violence, risk of repeat offender, relationship between the wrongdoer and the potential victim. And these are common sense factors. Now, while the Cleveland Municipal Court is the pilot program for something called the Arnold Foundation, these are a list of risk factors. If you follow the law, the criminal rules, these risk factors are already identified. It is not really something new. It's just a new move to create pretrial services so that more information is provided to the judges. Right now, we rely on the information that the police departments give us when we have to review cases for probable cause.
Without a doubt, we need to deal with bail reform. And what they're talking about with the Arnold Foundation is evidence-based practices, okay? Looking at specific factors. Is a person charged with a violent offense? Have they been charged with a violent offense in the last 2 years? Do they have a felony record? Do they have a misdemeanor record? And when you look at all of these factors, it gives you a risk assessment. And it's not based on cash. You know, does this person have the ability to pay to get out of jail? Is this person going to show up to court? Is this person likely to commit a crime while their case is pending? So I am all for using the Arnold Foundation. It has been implemented in, I think, over 3 states. It's working well in the Cleveland Municipal Court, and it avoids people sitting in jail for 2 days, 3 days before a judge reviews their bond.
All right, thank you both. This is a question for you, Mr. Furlough. What do you envision bringing to the court from a program perspective, and how will that enhance all involved communities?
Well, as I mentioned before, our municipal court is one of the few in the county that does not have any specialized dockets. So if I'm elected, I will review, first off, one type of docket that is that works well in a lot of these courts is a drug court. Okay, we refer some of our cases to Cleveland Municipal Court, Judge Lauren Moore, but I would want to control and I would want to have jurisdiction over the people that appear before me. So I would look into starting a drug court with the Lyndhurst Municipal Court and getting these people who are charged with non-violent drug-related offenses, getting them into treatment as opposed to punishing them. And it shows that recidivism goes way down when these people get treatment. And I would not send that down to another judge. I would want to make sure that I'm the person handling those cases. I would also look into starting a veterans court. I would look at those numbers once I took the bench and saw what was needed, but definitely drug court would be necessary.
This is kind of a two-part question. You know, one about the specialized dockets. Many years ago, because of my innovative programs called Make the Right Choice for Drug and Alcohol Offenders, I was looked at by the Supreme Court to have a drug court. We were 1 year following the drug court, or I'm sorry, the DUI court in Cleveland, going to meetings, going downtown, watching how the judges did it downtown as part of this potential having a DUI court. Well, when we were 1 year into the program and were accepted for the program and a grant was granted for the program, we were told that we didn't qualify because we didn't have a regionalized jail, because we're 6 cities and we had individual city jails. So you can't just decide you want to have a specialized court. You've got to follow the criteria that the Supreme Court sets forth. I'd like to get into the other question, but I guess the other part of the question, my time is up, so hopefully I'll get asked that again.
All right. Let us go on to a different topic. As an attorney working in various jurisdictions, do you think our court in Lyndhurst is up to date? And this did not say who it was for, but I want you to both comment on whether you feel the court is up to date and what change you might want.
Well, I'm assuming that was addressed to me. I practice in every municipal court in the jurisdiction, in the county. And our court is way behind the times. We are the only court that doesn't accept online payments. The East Cleveland court, and East Cleveland I think has gone bankrupt, they accept online payments. There's no case information. Our website looks like it was invented in the 1980s, and there's no accessibility. There's no information on the website. We need transparency. And our court has not been committed to increasing or improving the technology. The Ohio Supreme Court has had technology grants of $2.5 million each of the last 3 years. That's a total of $7.5 million that our court hasn't even applied for any of that money in 2 of those years. And the 1 year that it did apply for money, it asked for $4,000. The application was applied, it was put in the day that it was due, and it was denied. So you need someone who's willing to seek those funds and sees what's wrong with the court and improve it.
First of all, to address the grants available, that is true, and there are some courts that don't have any money at all, but I've already told you our court has operated efficiently for 17 years. We have $230,000 in our computer fund. We're not going to get a grant for $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000. And we right now are in the process. Our new equipment is being built on site, the new components with the new server that's going to enhance some of the computerization in the court. But I want to tell you about putting out public information. It almost renders seal of the record meaningless. You put out all this information about someone, even before a case is convicted, that information goes out on every arrest. What chance does a person have for a clean record if all of this information is public? And we've tried to protect those interests of those people. One of these days, we will move forward with those things, but it's not required. Thank you.
Okay, this is a completely different subject. And it's addressed to you, but it's obviously something that both of you will not comment on. Okay, what specifically would you, both of you, do to engage the community in the opiate crisis? And how could you improve the program that has been in place? Yes.
Well, I'm sure Judge Bose will talk about, she does have some community outreach that deals with parents of people who have opioid addictions. And I think that those are good programs. I think the court needs to focus more on prevention and education. And that goes back to what I was talking about, is getting into the schools and not making myself available to the schools, but pushing myself onto the schools and saying, you have to let me do this, you have to let me come in and show these kids, educate these kids as to the dangers of alcohol, marijuana, and opioids. So I would definitely, I think you have to address it from the top, and I was talking about a drug court, but you also have to stop the people entering into the system, and I think you have to do that at the middle school and high school level through prevention education.
It's not so easy to get into the schools and talk about drugs. I've tried for 17 years. We have a SPAN unit. It's a drug enforcement unit that the police departments all around town. It includes Brush schools, South Euclid, Lyndhurst schools, and it includes the Mayfield schools. The police, who are the drug enforcement unit, who are in the best position to educate about drugs, can't get into the schools to do these things. I know it's a great idea, but you've got to convince the school boards and the superintendents of the schools that they want you to bring drug education into their schools. Mayfield won't even allow dogs to come and sniff the lockers, which is something that's needed. They did it one time, it was supposed to be repeated, and the drug unit has been trying for years to make that happen. So while it's a great idea, I don't think the schools are ready for it because many of them don't want to believe it's happening.
Thank you very much, both of you. Now, the City Council candidates from Lyndhurst.
Good evening. My name is Steve Gruszewski, your Ward 4 Councilman. It is a pleasure to be addressing you tonight. My wife April and I have lived in Lyndhurst for 23 years. In that time, we have developed lifelong relationships and have made many new friends. We truly love Lyndhurst and everything the city has to offer. Many years ago, the neighbors on my street had an issue with a developer in the city that I felt was important enough to pursue with our councilman in Ward 4, our current mayor, Patrick Ward. Taking a leadership role in my neighborhood, I began to organize, collect signatures, and formulate a comprehensive game plan to present to City Council, giving them several workable options, rather than just an empty complaint. In the end, with the help of Councilman Ward, we were able to resolve our issue. The fact that I could get my neighbors to work together for this common good was an eye-opening experience. It was through that experience that I realized, with solid leadership and a true concern for Lyndhurst, anything is possible. I regularly attended City Council meetings and tracked issues like our budget, our tax dollars, and the many ways the city works to improve Lyndhurst for every citizen. Watching Lyndhurst City Council handle a wide variety of issues while continuing to hold a high level of decorum made me understand the necessary temperament needed to become a successful councilman in Lyndhurst. As councilman, I've had a chance to interact with many residents of Ward 4. Block parties, shredding days, home day, national night out, and council coffee are just a few of the many examples. There is a commonality with everyone I meet. They appreciate our city services, our attentiveness, and the dedication and time our city leadership puts in daily for the betterment of Lyndhurst. I receive calls and emails on a number of topics, but there are two that seem to be mentioned most often by residents. The first is a concern about our housing stock, in particular rental properties. I've worked with our building department and have been proactive at tracking issues and following up on them. We register and inspect our rental homes, which is necessary if we are going to maintain our attractive neighborhoods. The other big issue is our schools. Strong schools are very important to our community, and we are extremely engaged in finding any solutions that address the real problems that exist. We also need to find ways to raise the perception about what is great in our SEL schools, and there are great things happening. Serving as your Ward 4 councilman is rewarding on many levels. My hope is that you want a councilman who is proven to be involved, informed, and truly cares about you and our community. If you do, I ask that you vote to keep me, Steve Gruszecki, your Ward 4 councilman, Tuesday, November 7th. Thank you.
The opponent is here for this race, and we're happy that you are here. Dale, and your last name is Ferris. Thank you. You do your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Roz. And I'd like to thank the audience for this opportunity to introduce myself to you. My name is Dale Ferris, and I also want to thank the League of Women.
Oh, is the microphone?
Hello? I think it's working now.
Did you hear the beginning of that? Okay, you need to just, I'm sorry, but start again.
I'll start by just saying thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here to introduce myself and give you a chance to learn a little bit about myself. My name is Dale Ferris, and I'm running for Ward 4 Council in the city of Lyndhurst. So I'll start a little bit about who I am as the person. Dale Ferris, I've been a resident of Lyndhurst for 19 years, living on Clubside Road. I have a wife, Kathy, who's been married to me for 34 years. She's a CPA, and she's a small business entrepreneur. We're the two proud parents of two college-age students. Abigail, who's also here, 22 years old. She's a senior at the University of Notre Dame. And our son, Noah, who's a junior at Case Western, and he's 20 years old. We also have a dog, Zeke. He's 5 years old. He's a Great Dane mix. He has a big bark, he has floppy ears, and he still lives at home with his parents. Even though we've offered to get him an apartment, but apparently he doesn't want to take us up on that. I'm very involved as a neighbor because I've been the chairperson of Lyndhurst Park Estates for 6 years. I've also been a member of my church for 33 years, in which case I've also been 16 years in various leadership roles, including president, vice president, and treasurer. A little bit about who I am. I'm a professional. I'm a professional business strategist. I have an MBA and I have a BA in economics, so I have a long technical background. But I think the thing that we probably should most focus on is the issues. Why am I here? What am I really looking for? And it took a little while to articulate this, but I do want you, if you have a chance to pick up the flyer on the way out, my 3 issues are this. We pay high taxes. How do we know that we get the biggest and best bang for our bucks for our tax dollars? Secondly, how do we ensure the safety and security of our local neighborhoods? And very important to me because I'm a business strategist, what does the Lyndhurst of tomorrow look like? How do we increase the desirability of our neighborhoods? How do we foster a sustainable Lyndhurst?
What qualities do you feel a council person should have?
That's a really good question. To me, I think one of the reasons why I'm most running is because I'm not a politician. I'm a person who wants to bring my professional capabilities to the table, do it in an objective way. If you talk to individuals who know me well, and there are many that are around here, I think most people would say that I'm a really forward-thinking change agent. And this is not just a service. This is what I've done for 35 years in professional organizations. Secondly, I'm very authentic. I'm genuine. I'm concerned. I'm very pleased with who I am and who I am not. I don't worry about. I have to be what I am. And mostly, I'm also very involved, as I've explained. So those are all very, very key, in my opinion, what makes a really good council person, a person who is concerned and really is genuinely worried about getting the great results.
Thank you. How can you see covering the service losses from the fact that the state government is giving less funds? Do you have some ideas in that area?
My entire career has been based on how do you get the most out of what you have available. It's what I've done for 35 years. And there are going to be certain facts, and this is something that we have to also deal with. We have to deal with facts. What do we have? What don't we have? There's been a lot of talk that I've heard so far today about regionalism. One of the questions that had been asked is, what would you, I think this was in one of the former ones, what would you be willing to put on the table for regionalism? I think we have to put everything on the table. We have to think about what are the possibilities. We have to think outside the box. So to say that there's going to be just this, that we're going to nothing else, I think we really have to start thinking outside the box and really think about, let's move beyond the borders and the boundaries and barriers that are out there, some of which are real, most of which are artificial.
People are very interested in knowing how you would help individuals in the community, covering the seniors and the youth, and all the different types of diversity that we have in the community.
Wow. We have a diverse community. I'm a big believer in the we the people type thing. There are places where there are people that are more in need than others, and we have to find those ways that we can best help them. To articulate specific plans at this moment, I'm not sure that I could really do that, because at the moment I'm not quite sure what our city government can best do, what are our opportunities for collaborating with other municipalities or governments in order to do things better. But I think what this really is a matter of focus, and it's a matter of mindset. How can we take a look at the people who most need different things and actually provide them the support? I believe where there's a will, there's a way.
This is very difficult for you to have to keep answering all these questions, but since we don't have his opponent here, we wanted to be sure that he had the opportunity to answer these.
I'm game for all of them.
And by the way, we did give the people who were not here a longer time for their presentation to make up for the fact that they wouldn't be able to answer questions. What resources and relationships can you leverage to serve the residents of Lyndhurst?
I know a lot of very, very talented people, a lot of very dedicated people. One of the things, one of the projects that I worked on for 3 years was doing strategic mission planning for the Synod, the large predominant religion here in the United States. And one of the things that became very eye-opening to me as I was doing this project for 3 years, and it involved about 180 congregations and $380 million in assets, was the firepower of the intellect that was in the pews of our churches. And it just really amazed me. We had everybody from CEOs to lawyers to teachers to professors to musicians. And if you simply asked them to help solve problems and you didn't overwhelm them, they would be more than willing to put in their time to help. So I think that's something that we really can leverage if we even just focus on Lyndhurst. We have a lot of intellectual firepower and passion to do things.
Do you have some new ideas or thoughts on things that could be expanded to contribute to the economic development in Lyndhurst?
If you get a chance to pick up the flyer that we put together over there, I will read off the 4 bullet points of what my priorities would be going forward. And I think it's important because this really encapsulates what I'm passionate about. And it's easier for me just to look at them and read them, so I have to put on my glasses for doing it. One of the core things for me is performance, not politics. I'm very results-oriented. I'm driven. So one of the things I want to make sure that our government becomes is a results-driven, high-performing government. Secondly, I want to make sure that we establish the blueprint for how our city becomes the place where people really want to live, where they really want to work, and where they want to stay. I think in the long run, we have to really develop the roadmap, sculpt and implement the strategy for the Lyndhurst of tomorrow. And really, I think that one of my key points here is I want to be the best when it comes to city government. Effectively strengthen our city's vibrancy and financial vitality. Really, my goal is to be the best government there is frankly, in the world.
Okay, that's a good goal. How would you improve or just have new ideas of having better communication with your ward residents?
I'm a big believer in the personal touch. I really am. I mean, going out, Lyndhurst Park Estates, and I think I do have several neighbors here from Lyndhurst Park Estates. One of the things that I felt we really achieved very well when I was chairperson in there, and it wasn't that I did it alone by a long shot, this was a big team effort, was the fact that we did things and we built a neighborhood where it's really almost a family. So to me, it's the personal touch. But I also do believe there's a big place for technology to leverage it so that we can get the information out faster, transparency. And I think the key thing here is not the one-way monologue, but rather the dialogue. Because that's when we are really going to start to make hay and do things that are going to be great for Lyndhurst.
Thank you very much for being with us this evening.
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum, as well as providing me an opportunity to participate while away. My name is Lane Schlessel, and I've been privileged to serve the residents of Lyndhurst Ward 3 as councilman for the past 12 years. My involvement in our city began about 15 years ago as a baseball parent, coach, and member of the Dad's Club. That involvement led me to become interested in what else was happening in our city, so I began attending council meetings. The interest in council and attendance at meetings not only prepared me to be an active councilman once I was elected, but it demonstrated to me the value of being a well-informed, hard-working leader in order to best represent the interests of my residents and our city. Working together with our mayor, my council colleagues, and our departments assures our services are budgeted carefully, are responsive to the needs of our residents, and delivered in top-notch fashion. We are all sincerely passionate about what we do for you. Our city is known for having excellent city services, efficient operations, and effective governance, and I'm proud to be a part of an organization that has attained such a fine reputation. You should expect your council representative to be well informed about city programs and services. You should expect your city council representative to be available to you. You should expect your city council representative to really care about your needs and the needs of our whole community. I sincerely believe I deliver on every one of these expectations every day for you. I have served on every committee of council and have been chairman of most, including finance. I've served 5 terms as vice mayor. 2 questions I'm asked most often surround our city schools and our taxes. The answers are intertwined. Out of every $1 collected in property tax, our schools receive over 66 cents, and our city operates on 11.2 cents. Again, we budget carefully and manage diligently to assure your dollars are spent well. We also meet with our school board and our school board administration representatives often to stay on top of what is really going on and to provide whatever influence we can, recognizing the importance of quality schools for our community. Those are short answers and 2 very complex questions. It is a great honor to serve you, and I humbly ask you to vote for me, Lane Schlessel, on Tuesday, November 7th. Thank you.
My name is Laura Thompson, and I hope to be your Lyndhurst City Councilwoman for Ward 3. First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for allowing me the time to tell you a little about my background and qualifications. Many people have asked me, why do I want to run for a seat on City Council? Frankly, I used to say I would never run for any public office because many politicians are extremely self-serving and unresponsive to the community's needs. I didn't want to deal with or be amongst those types of people. Now I've decided to run for those very reasons. I want to ensure that your voices are heard and that our local government is truly for the people and by the people. I pledge to be a committed public servant for a community who makes a positive impact. Dedication and responsiveness are truly what the citizens of Lyndhurst deserve and can expect from me. I promise to always put the needs and values of Lyndhurst residents first and foremost. There are 3 issues that I'm most concerned about that impact the city of Lyndhurst. Almost 30% of our citizens are made up of senior citizens 60 and over. I like to help ensure the needs of our senior citizens are being met so they thrive in their homes. We need to survey this sector and ask them, how can our city serve you better? 2, I'd like to support our South Euclid Lyndhurst School District so that it might reach a level of excellence, thereby encouraging our families to stay here and new families to relocate here. There are many nearby school districts that are doing a great job of educating children. We need to support our district so it can model after these high-achieving districts. And 3, we need to decrease the level of our city's vacant homes by better promoting why our community is a great place to live, work, play, and shop. A little about me. Over the last 3 years, I have served as an executive committee member of the Cuyahoga County Democratic Party. We are the group that vets and endorses Democratic candidates. Also, I am the proud founder of the Mocha Party. The mission of this 7-year-old movement is to promote political awareness, civility, voter education, voter registration, and social justice issues. We have grown to almost 3,000 members from around the country. This year, I was elected to serve as both the Lyndhurst City Leader and the President of the Lyndhurst Democratic Club. For about the last 30 years, I have served as the President and owner of LMT Productions. We are a marketing and public relations consulting firm that is based right here in Lyndhurst. I have been endorsed by our Cuyahoga County Councilwoman, Sunny Simon, and by the Cuyahoga County Democratic Party. In closing, I'd like to thank you for your support and vote on November 7th.
Thank you. I want to tell you and remind you that the literature is on the literature table for all the candidates who are here this evening, so please, I know a lot of you probably picked it up during the meet and greet, but it's right over there. We have absentee ballot, vote by mail applications on the table also from the League. And if you are interested in having more information about State Issue 1 and State Issue 2, we have a sheet to sign up on. If you give us your email, we will send it on to you. Pros and cons and explanations of those ballots. Thank you for coming tonight, and I know you're all going to vote.